Hey guys, I'm Andrew Henderson, Nomad Capitalist. It is day 5 of quarantine week here at my home in Kuala Lumpur with every day enjoying a new tea. This is the TWG Always Sakura tea. They come out with in March. I had some of this left around from last March, and it's like a cherry blossom green tea for the end of winter. Really nice. And one of my 21 TWG teas that are here in the collection as we are prepared to stay inside. And as I always say about TWG, they're not a sponsor. I'm just a fan. But today I want to talk about catching a falling knife, because this has come up. A lot of chaos out there resulting from the coronavirus. I can tell you, some people are overreacting. If you're on social media every 5 minutes, like scrolling, looking for the next thing, I mean, this has become like doomsday porn for some people. I literally took my social media applications off my phone, at least for the ones that have, news, because I want to go and get the news in a normal, regimented way where I'm not, trying to panic myself. Okay, I think we have to understand about human emotions is when things are good, people think nothing can go wrong, but now they're looking for something. They're looking to feed their anxiety, and so there's a lot of chaos in the market, and people want to know, well, should I buy now? Is it going to go down more? When is the right time to buy? And just because it lost a third of its value, the stock market, is it going to lose another third of its value? I don't want to miss out. And so I've got a few thoughts on that. The first thing I think is important is understanding your own perspective. For me, when you're making a deal or when you're figuring out something in business, mindset, or even just general finance, mindset is important. What is your perspective? Now, I look out my window and I see buildings that weren't here 25 years ago. And I look at my lifetime over the last, 3.5 decades, and all the countries that weren't even on the map, basically, economically, that are now competitive. I remember going to 4th or 5th grade and we were watching the Chinese, go around Shanghai on bicycles. And, my perspective on the world is that if you look back over a long period of time, there's a lot of good things that have happened, and the world generally grows and things progress and there are new opportunities everywhere. I have an entrepreneurial optimism about that, and I understand things will change. We're not buying stock in Eastman Kodak anymore. There's going to be things that change in the economy, and you want to be aware of that. You want to ask yourself, where is the economy going? Where do I see the economy going? But I generally have an optimistic view in the aggregate. It does not mean I think things will always be optimistic. It does not mean that there won't be tough times. You won't have stock market crashes. You won't have times of despair, which is why I've been saying over these last couple of days, have a cash position and have it diversified geographically, so you're not stuck with one country's banks. Some of you out there have gotten a little impatient because of the good economy. I was looking at some comments on other people's YouTube videos recently, where someone said, for example, I lost $200,000 in the stock market, and a guy said, no, you didn't sell. And he said, oh yeah, but I'm gonna have to wait like 5 years to get that money back. 5 years is nothing. I mean, we talk about things like getting a second passport. If you're staying inside right now, get your second passport going. Get the process going so that 5 years from now you'll have your passport, because the 5 years is going to pass anyway. Okay, things will go back to normal, and the same is the case with your investments. Yeah, there's going to be up and down times, and again, I've lived through a couple times in my relative youth of total market euphoria, where you go to the grocery store. In a poor part of town. I used to live in city center Phoenix, and so the grocery stores were in not the best parts of town, a mile or two away. And we'd go to these grocery stores. They were handing out people who made, who were landscapers, making 25 grand a year. You want to buy a $500,000 house? We'll give you cash afterwards. And people thought, oh, they can never end. And then when it ended, they're like shocked. So, if that's your perspective, if you can't wait a couple years. Now, I went back and if you look at, after 9/11, for example, in the United States, it did not take the stock market that long to rebound. If you look at some of these, big events that we remember that are drilled into our mind, remember that panic? It took long. It took not as long as you think for the markets to rebound. But there's that psychological effect, which is why, having the right mindset is important. Some people out there are so excited right now that they think that finally everyone else has been drawn down to their level of basement dwelling. They've been prophesying doom and gloom for so long, and finally there's some doom and gloom now. And they like to think people are suffering, and that we're all going to be going out, hunting bison on the prairie pretty soon. I think this is a great reminder to have some cash on hand, physically as well as in the banks and other places, whether it's crypto, gold, whatever. Do all the things to prepare yourself. Have some food. But if you think that we're going to go back to boiling stones for soup, then you're going to have a different perspective. Okay, and what I have to say isn't really going to resonate with you. And so you can call it pragmatic, you can call it whatever you want, but you're going to have tough times in markets, and you have to be prepared. And that's why we talk here about being prepared, whether it's financially, with where you live, with where your investments are. I'm sleeping pretty well. So the first thing is get your mindset and really understand where you think the world is going. Not only in the perspective of, is the world going to totally collapse and it's never going to come back and we're just going to go back to hunting with tools, also ask yourself, where is the market going to be going? Is tourism going to be affected? Yeah, short term. Is it going to be affected, 5 or 10 years from now? Are people going to use this as an excuse? No, I don't think so, because people have short memories. That's why in the last decade of the good market, people forgot. I'm talking to business owners who are my friends who don't have enough to cover more than 1 month of payroll. They've been so, eager to expand their businesses and not have any fail-safes because credit was cheap and money was easy and they figured the good times would never end. And I feel badly for those folks, but you got to be prepared. But that, and so that shows to me that people have short memories. Now, the second thing is you want to remove anxiety and you want to remove bias. I read a great article yesterday. There's a difference between fear and anxiety. There is some reason to be fearful right now. That said, that's a great time to go out there because people are going to start freaking out. What you don't want is an anxiety. What you don't want is to let it overcome you and feel it all over your body and react accordingly, to get all those hormones in your body and to react accordingly. Why I say remove biases as well is because even in the good times, I was talking for the last number of months about Turkey as a place to invest, and they have a passport program and all that, and some folks are like, I would never invest in Turkey. Why? Because of this or because of that, because of the politics. Even though you can look at economies, just like Turkey, who have, shot up like a rock with, similar type governments. And so, if you've been sitting in your country and, sitting in the soup of that country, and if it's in the U.S., you're watching Fox News, you're watching CNN, you're listening only to U.S. politics, and that's your perspective, you'd think a lot of the world's a dangerous place. So you've got to remove that bias as well. And if you can remove those biases, then you can get to step number 3, which is evaluate the underlying value of the assets. This is where I don't always entirely gel with technical traders, people who are always looking to do a trade and make money. I've worked with some of those folks, and some of them are geniuses. But my perspective, when I study, having had the chance to meet some wealthy people growing up, having the chance now to work with wealthy folks, including young wealthy people and also older people who have built deca and centimillionaire fortunes. Even billion-dollar fortunes and billion-dollar companies. If the underlying value of the asset is good and you can get an asset on sale, I'm not as concerned with getting the asset at the absolute lowest sale. There's a temptation with all the data that's out there online. I've been tracking currencies recently, and I've been watching the Turkish lira and saying, it goes up, it goes up, up. And I've been telling you, I've got a property I want to close on. I hope the person doesn't change their mind, because right now, the property transfer office in Turkey is closed. You can't buy or sell a property. So I'm just sitting around waiting. I've got the money ready to go. I've identified that, in my mind, Istanbul, you have, 20 million people? You have a culture that has more than 1.1 children per couple. So they reproduce. You've got an economy that's grown that once, 20 years ago, wanted to join the European Union, now is better off without it. They forged their own path, like countries like Malaysia, but even on a bigger scale. They have a big, export thing that's coming. They're doing exports. And if you live in the places I live, you've seen Turkish exports. They've got a lot of, good things. But people look at one aspect of Turkey and say, oh, I don't like it. I look and say, I like the underlying value of real estate near Taksim Square in Istanbul. That's got value. People are not going to stop traveling to Istanbul. You're going to see tourism come back the way it always has. You've got an entire region in that part of the world where people are looking for a safe haven. They will buy at these prices, and they have been. Record number of investors coming into Turkey. And so if I buy something when the Turkish lira is 6.52, and a week later it goes down to 6.62, I'm not going to worry too much about it. Because I'm going to look at, in my base currency, what's the intrinsic value of the asset and what do I think it's going to be worth. What I've learned from these extremely wealthy folks who have years of experience, not just a guy who, and I've been this guy, not just a guy the way I was at one point where you have 2 years of making a good income and suddenly you're the genius. But I'm talking people who've been in business 30 and 40 years, who've been wealthy for a long time. It's all about the long term. And I'm not super concerned what the value of my apartment in Istanbul or anywhere else is going to be in a year or even in 5 years. I track my assets because I have lots of different things all over the place and I don't want to forget anything. And I have a number and I kind of total it up. Okay, here's the number that it's all worth. But, so some things went down right now. Do I believe that the Singapore dollar, if I just bought some Singapore dollars, I just traded into Singapore dollars from USD the other day at 70 cents. Now it's 69 cents. Okay, great. I still believe in Singapore. What you want to be careful of is assets that have been overhyped. And there are some stocks in the stock market that, the moment money isn't easy, are going to have a real problem. I look at, for me, I look at Silicon Valley. I look at this entire ecosystem of people who are, giving money to companies. I say to myself, I've got a company that's incredibly profitable, that's been around, that has assets, and yet, I'm in the services business basically, and no one's giving me a 25x multiple on my company. And I'm seeing these companies that they've been getting all this money, and I say, that doesn't seem sustainable to me. Now, some of you may be in that ecosystem and you say, well, it makes perfect sense. And obviously some people have done well with that. And obviously the future is software and AI and stuff like that. And if you're going to be trying to avoid catching a falling knife, don't go out. Take this as an opportunity to reevaluate and think, okay, let me get dialed in. Where is the world going? It's probably not going into people who are selling film, right? My earlier example. But these valuations in some of these companies have been incredible. So I would reevaluate and say, let me get back to things that work. To me, people always need a place to live. To me, there's just certain things that people need to always do. They're going to be doing many of those things in different ways. But for me, I think what's helped me be successful in investing is I've removed the bias of, Turkey's dangerous. Now listen, there are some countries around the world where they just suck, and I'm not optimistic about their growth. But I think what you've got right now is a great opportunity for international investing. I would be starting, if you want to be doing deals, I might dollar cost average into some currencies or some equities or something overseas with the anticipation of maybe doing a real estate deal. I think people aren't desperate enough in the real estate world right now. That said, some of these countries where the currency just went down 25%, if those are good assets, those currencies might shoot up. Even if the prices of the assets in local currency terms will go down, it might be somewhat of a push in some places. But I would start to do that now. I would be on the lookout for deals. I would be looking at markets. Every market's different. Like in Georgia, we've said, if you get 1 or 2% off, you're doing well. We got one guy about 11% off a couple months ago at our real estate masterclass, and it was like a real accomplishment. Meanwhile, in a market like a Cambodia or many Asian markets, you should come in, 20, 30% lower than the asking price, just to not be an idiot. So I would start coming in, lower. I've got a couple open opportunities for folks here in Malaysia. You want to sell me your apartment? Here's my number. Oh, and by the way, it could go down. Not always a good negotiating tactic in every culture. Not everyone likes that impulsivity, but I say, listen, if you want to sell your property, if you want cash, if you need cash to eat, because some people here have all their money in real estate, I'm ready to go. So the bottom line is I'm not a market timer. I think it's a good opportunity to reevaluate assets, what they're worth, get back to basics, avoid high-flying stuff, stable assets that have intrinsic value, whether it's safe haven currencies, whether it's real estate in places where the population is growing. That's how I would avoid catching a falling knife. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.